Good afternoon, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this episode, we're going to figure out how to do a mod that is somewhat popular with like the 96 to 2004, 2005 Fords, where you're going to cut off your heater core when you set it to max AC. End result is colder AC. Without further ado, let's get to it. First, let's describe the problem. This is a functioning, healthy AC, at least up front. I think there's a filter I need to clean in the back, but different story. But up front, this AC works exactly how it was intended to work from the factory back in '97. It's using R134A Freon. Everything is clean, everything is working. Has a brand new compressor, pag oil is good, all that good stuff. But even with it working exactly like it's supposed to, when you get out on a 90+ degree summer's day here in Florida, even when you have it set to max AC, it doesn't quite keep up. It blows cold and it'll keep it maybe in the 80s inside, but you still sweat. And part of that reason is that the heater cores on Fords, that's the thing that gives you hot air inside the car. The heater cores on Fords are in a constant circulation, meaning that it doesn't matter if you have the AC on or you have the heat on, doesn't matter, it's always getting hot coolant. Always. So the idea behind this mod is we're going to make it so we're going to install a valve. We're going to cut off the flow of coolant when we set the max AC, which is going to help to overall just cool the air coming into the cabin, because our heater core, it's buried down in there, trust me, I got another video where I work on it, is no longer getting that continuous flow of hot coolant. So that's the problem, that's the solution. Let's go over the parts. The main star of our show is going to be this heater control valve. This is the Murray flavor. It's a clone of a Motorcraft Ford valve, which I'm already using on this vehicle in the back, because that is how the AC works, period. In the back is you have to cut off the heat to the heater core. Otherwise, you don't get cold air in the back. Have a video on that too. Anyway, this is a Murray 74809. And the way that this valve works is pretty straightforward. Get this guy out. All right, let's check it out. We have 2 ins, 2 outs, and we have a vacuum pot. And this is pretty straightforward. You apply a vacuum signal to this. The vacuum signal pulls a diaphragm, actuates this, and once this actuates, it closes off the valve, and it no longer allows fluid to flow through it. That's it. That is literally how this works. So what we need to do is we need to patch this into our heater core lines, which on a truck, very simple. On this van, not so simple. So we're going to have to think about that a little bit. And we're also going to have to locate the vacuum lines for the max AC vacuum switch. There's a switch, and I think in this van it's located under the corner over here. We're going to look in a second. That when you set it to max AC, you're going to see the switch actuate, and what that does is it uses vacuum to move a door that's buried back here in the HVAC, and it closes off outside air to use air that's already been cooled from inside of the cabin to make it blow a little colder. So we want to rig this up for that. So let's take a look, see if we can't find that switch. So taking a look, we're looking at passenger floorboard here. That guy. That's our switch, I'm pretty sure. And you see that white vacuum line? That's what we're going to need to splice into. So pretty sure that is that. As you can see, you got pretty tight quarters up in here. That's the ABS controller. think. Yeah, I think that's what that is. Yeah, kind of hard to show, but that's your blend door actuator. And then behind that, it goes up into like this vacuum coupling, which if you tore the dash apart would go over to the HVAC system. So yeah, we got to splice in on the white. So cool, that's where we got to do our vacuum. We're going to put in a T, and then we're going to run a line over to our valve. As you can see, we have a small problem with that. Valve is here, or sorry, vacuum switch is here, but where do we put our valve, and how do we get our vacuum signal from here over to our valve? So I watched the switch actuate when I set it to max AC. That's definitely our switch, that's definitely our line. But we're gonna need to take the doghouse off, which is this part right here, in order to figure out what's up. I'm gonna see if I can't take this out without needing to move that, because I know how to take this off. It's a giant pain in the butt. However, you can take this off. It sits on 3 posts, kind of in a triangle shape, 1, 2, and then there's one at the bottom. You need to lift up, and then at the very bottom, I think you would need to take, in this one, take this thing out. There is a metal clip, and I have a video. It's not posted as of this time. I have a video about this, but there's a metal clip you got to pull down, and it'll release it. And then this part comes up, and then you just have that back there. So let me get this out of the way, and let's see if we can't get this doghouse off. So this is what it looks like when you take the cubby off. That's the grip and the tongue I was talking about. So once you do all that, looks like this one already came loose, but you've got these various, there it goes. There's 2 on each side. This one, there it goes. All right, once you got them all, you have to kind of start just wiggling it out of there. And I need 2 hands to do that, but you just kind of wiggle it out. Be careful of all these latches and hooks, because you will absolutely catch on everything. And let's see if I can't kind of get this out of the way without having to touch this, because that's a pain to move. All right, probably gonna mostly see my back here, but so you scooch it forward, and then you tilt it forward, and you kind of try to pull it up. See if you can get it out. That was brilliant. Wow, that is so much easier to do when you don't have... Uh-oh, am I taking it down? It's risky business. I saved it. Well, if you've never taken off your doghouse, this is what it looks like. And this right here, these are actually your heater core lines. Now, that's when they are on their way back to the rear AC to provide heat back there. And there's a hole drilled in the floor over there, and there's a vacuum line that goes down at the driver's seat and goes to one of these under the frame rail. And again, when you set it to max AC, cuts off the coolant flow, and that's how you get cold air in the back. So we're basically going to do that, but we need to figure out the best place to do it. Ooh, what is this? Vacuum lines. Spicy. What are those for? I don't think they're the vacuum lines I am looking for. I think these are emissions, I think. Anyway, you definitely want to do this with the engine not hot, because it will throw heat, let me tell you, with the doghouse off. So, so the question is there a way that we can, say, do our splice somewhere in here, like right there would be perfect, right? Because these are still the two loops, two legs that are heading, blah, 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 that are heading towards the heater core. So that would be perfect. And then can we sneak a vacuum line into behind the doghouse where we're not pinching off the line? Because if you try to put it here, the big rubber seal that helps hold the heat out, it'll get us. And if we put a pinhole in it, well, now we got a place for heat to come through. So I'm gonna have to stare at this a little bit and kind of figure out how I want to do this. Because alternatively, we'd have to run a line forward, loop it up and around, try to come back in over this way. There's already a hole that I can't reach where there's a line that comes in from the top front of the engine, and it comes in back in here, that black line, which I probably can't show you. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it is there. So let me stare at this and kind of figure out what I want to do. There's got to be a way to do this. So stay tuned. All right, so here's what I've done. I figured out that right there is where the vacuum source line comes in from the engine. So I took a coat hanger, I bent it straight, fed it through, and then here's the other end of it. I have taped a vacuum line I'm going to use to it, and I'm going to use it like a fish, basically, and I'm going to pull it back, and with a little luck, a little hope, I'll be able to pull this all the way back through that hole, and I'll figure out some kind of a grommet to use in there, because right now the actual vacuum source line, the way it's shaped, and you can't see it because I don't have a flashlight in here, but the way it's shaped is like a grommet. So I do have a grommet kit, and I may have to like cut that grommet connector out and then put on a regular tube connector, something. I'll come up with something to make this work. There you go, since I have a flashlight in. So mission success, I have fished it through. Let's make sure I have enough on the other side that I can pull this forward more and undo the tape. And then figure out what I'm gonna do to make sure that those vacuum lines don't wind up getting cut. All right, so what I was able to do is I took a 5/8 grommet, cut a piece out of it. And then when I did that, after much persuading, I was able to get a grommet around there to replace that funky grommet connector. So it's in, and that should protect our line from eventually getting cut because of rubbing. So that's fantastic. And as you can see, I got this through. I fished it through with a bent coat hanger. And now I need to adjust it quite a bit because I got way too much sticking out here. I need to pull it back, but I have to do it gentle. Otherwise, I'll just place the grommet that I just spent 15 minutes fighting to get in. So I'm going to do that. And meanwhile, I'm going to have to trim our white line that's kind of hiding back there and insert our vacuum tee. Got a couple different sizes here. I also have some that are adapters. So we're going to figure out which one fits best and get that in there, because we only have to tee just right there, and that feeds us in. And then I will hook up this valve on the other side and I guess kind of run it up and over so I can hold it and mess with the switch and make sure that, yeah, this is actually going to work. Should work, but you know, I like having visual confirmation before I run it, you know, and start chopping into these lines and spilling coolant everywhere and, you know, making a general mess of things to finish the installation. All right, here's the rough draft. So what I had to do is I didn't have anything that let me directly go to the white vacuum line. So I had to slip something over the white vacuum line. I'm probably going to tape it to help seal it. But as you can see, we're teed in now. So now we should have vacuum going down our line that's on the other side of that line. Brings us up and over here. So then I'm going to get my valve and I'm going to swing it back over here so I can test it. But supposedly the hardest part is done. Now it's making sure we have a snug fit on the vacuum pot for the valve, and then inserting our valve way back there and possibly splicing this to be longer to make it work. Alrighty, give you guys some updates here. Things kind of escalated. Turns out there is a connection for the signal vacuum line that comes down through that I wasn't aware about, that you can't see, and I broke it. I opened the connection up. So what I had to do is I used my fish, I ran a new signal line, which is what this is, what I'm holding. Got that all patched in, made sure that worked. As you can see, I have also patched in some line here on what we actually need to work on, and I put in a T. That is where we're going to connect our vacuum line. That's going to be for the vacuum switch that we're putting in. And I just ran the fish again, and this is our line. I had to go to the parts store this morning and grab it. I didn't have what I needed yesterday. And I went ahead and I did some testing and verified that, yeah, it will provide enough vacuum that I was able to watch this rod actuate and it closed stuff. So I'm gonna get this connected to here, pull the slack out to kind of tuck everything up in there, and then we should have a bit of line coming out here. I'm gonna have to at least trim a piece of it off because I need this size to go directly on the vacuum switch. And then I can try to splice other stuff in so that we can get this all the way back to where I intend to splice in the vacuum switch. And that's going to get spliced in back over here because it's just the easiest place to do it. And when you do this, be aware you're going to spill coolant. Not a ton, but you're going to spill some, so just be ready for that. All right, here's what we're doing. So I found the best place to insert the valve is going to be right here. That's your heater core right there. This absolutely cuts off the heater core. It does not affect your circulation for your rear AC heat, and it won't mess with circulation for the general engine cooling. And to make a hole here, I disconnected our primary vacuum line real quick, and I moved back my other vacuum line that's for the vacuum switch, and I took off the oil filler neck. That just kind of, in my case, it's so greasy, it just kind of slides off. There's an 8mm up here you got to take off to do that. I'm going to use my PVC pipe cutter thing. It does a pretty good job of making a clean cut that doesn't have an angle on it. And let me go get my clamps. Like I said, oh, eek. I need to put some sort of a cap right there. I do not want coolant getting in the oil. I'm gonna put some sort of a plastic cap over that. We cannot have coolant in the oil. But other than that, I'm gonna make the cuts here. The valve does have an arrow, meaning this side up. And I'm assuming that's so coolant can't get inside the vacuum chamber and ruin it. So you're gonna want to insert it kind of like that. or like this. Doesn't really matter which way you do it, but right side up. All right. Okay guys, watch. You see those two screws next to the red clip? Watch the arm between them closely. You should see that rotate 90 degrees as the vacuum switch is getting actuated on and off. Okay, so this does work. It got pretty ugly where I chose to put it because I cut the hose wrong, so I had to get some more hose and bring it in. One of these 4 connections is leaking, I don't know which. I need to tighten up these clamps and see what that earns me. But as far as getting the vacuum switch to work, that's working. Now where it's just tidying things up, and I gotta close things up because my wife wants to use the van. All right, I've left it running at this point 20-25 minutes. After I readjusted all the clamps and double checked everything, I'm not seeing any more leaks. The vacuum switch is still working, so all of that is good and straight. I've got the interior put back together, as you can see, and we are now blowing pretty cold air, and you'll get full effect from that, 10-15 minutes as the core cools down because it's been cut off from that warm loop. But at this point, yeah, what you should see eventually is if you put your hand here, that should be real hot, and then you put your hand here and that's still pretty hot, but it should start to slowly cool down. What should happen. So, all right, I'm gonna call this a good modification, I guess. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode where we inserted an extra vacuum valve to help the AC blow cooler inside of my 1997 Ford E-150 Econoline van. If you found this video interesting, if you found it entertaining, if you found it educational, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. That does help to grow the channel, which allows me to bring you more content like this. Please also leave a comment. I like to read them, I like to reply to them, and I do like to learn from them. And lastly, guys, remember, I make mistakes. You saw plenty. I broke a vacuum line and then I had to fix it. So you don't have to. I'll catch you guys next episode.